A prominent left-wing commentator has been fired from US outlet The Hill after her critical reporting of Israel. Briahna Joy Gray has until today hosted a show called The Rising, which she co-hosts with a right-wing commentator named Robbie Sove. So the idea of the show is fairly interesting, actually. It's to facilitate debate. It often gets heated between the left-wing and the right-wing host. To get an idea, this is an example from soon after October the 7th.
It is interesting that there have been no calls to censor. I mean, it's not the same for the President of the United States, obviously, but to even ask for an apology or a personal retraction from Joe Biden after lying about the 40 beheaded babies that have yet to materialize. His campaign, his administration got away with putting a retraction out to the press without him ever, as I understand it to date, being asked about why he specifically averred that he had seen evidence of something that even the IDF... Even the IDF said that they had no evidence of.
That's not true. It's been shared on social media. The Israeli government has said this is the picture we've shown Joe Biden.
That is literally not. That is not true, Robbie.
It is absolutely true. How many times do you have to see pictures of blown apart children before you concede that they exist?
I see pictures of blown apart children every single day, Robbie. They're Palestinian children. What I have not seen...
So you're saying there are no Israeli blown apart children? What is wrong with you?
Now, of course, Briahna Joy Gray was correct in that clip. Her co-host was wrong. And Briahna has continued to apply her critical eye to the Gaza war, highlighting Israeli atrocities in Gaza, questioning official narratives from Israel and their allies, and highlighting Western duplicity in Israel's genocidal war. And it's an approach which has gained The Hill lots of views. So a recent video hosted by Joy Gray highlighting anti-Palestinian racism by talk show host Bill Maher has 176,000 views. That was just in 2 days. Popular video from last week criticized Joe Biden walking back from his supposed red line on Rafah. So you're seeing lots of people watching this, critical coverage of Israel. However, late this Thursday, Briahna Joy Gray revealed that she had been fired by The Hill. So she tweeted this, and it seems like she's been fired in a somewhat unceremonious way. So Briahna Joy Gray's tweet: "It finally happened. The Hill has fired me. There should be no doubt that the Rising Hill, or the Hill Rising, has a clear pattern of suppressing speech, particularly when it's critical of the state of Israel. This is why they fired Katie Halper, and it was only a matter of time before they fired me." And you can see this email. It's very abrupt. Notice of contract termination. Dear Briahna Joy, this is a 30-day written notice that your consulting services agreement is being terminated pursuant to the provisions of Section 5.3 for convenience. Thank you for your contributions, and we wish the best in your future endeavors. Sincerely yours, Nexstar Media. Now, she's been presenting this show for a few years, I think, and just a couple of sentences. You're sacked. Sorry, bye-bye. She mentioned Katie Halper in the tweet. She's another left-wing commentator who was fired from The Hill. In that case, that was after she called on progressives to commit to dismantling Israeli apartheid. Again, so a very reasonable position. So what precipitated Joy Gray losing her job? Well, the decision to fire Gray comes after this video of her went viral.
Thank you, me too. And I really hope that you specifically will believe women when they say that they got hurt.
All right, thanks for joining. Stick around, more Rising coming up next.
That video was shared by Israeli influencer Hen Mazig, who tweeted it with this commentary. The Hill's Briahna Joy Gray rolling her eyes and sighing after Yarden Gonen, sister of a hostage in Gaza, asking her to believe rape victims. No, lo, this person won't sink to. Truly disgusting. Now, Hen Mazig is a troll. I've been on Piers Morgan with him. He's just constantly trying to change the subject. Very disingenuous, very, very cynical guy. I have to admit, though, when I first saw that clip, I did find it a little bit uncomfortable, right? So I should be clear, I understood why Briahna Joy Gray rolled her eyes when that was sort of said to her by that guest. Briahna is one of the few commentators who has been brave enough to question the dodgy reporting from the likes of the New York Times about alleged systematic rape committed by Hamas. She gets flack for that all the time, and that attack was being repeated there, right? So I can see why she's like, this again. However, I think most people watching that will think such a dismissive response might seem inappropriate when, you're not just talking to a right-wing troll, you're talking to someone whose sister is currently being taken hostage, right? So you probably should avoid rolling your eyes in that situation. However, though, I did go back and look at the full context of this. And when you see the whole interview, it does give you a sort of a different image of what had happened, because the guest did say a lot of things that were just completely untrue.
I think the question is, so many other hostage families who've been protesting Netanyahu seem to believe that what would help their family members come home sooner is if Netanyahu would agree to a ceasefire and a hostage release deal to really prioritize what you're saying. Prioritize getting your sister home where she can be safe and have the medical attention it seems that she very much needs.
You're very right, but sometimes throughout those deals, we saw that Hamas wasn't agreeing anything at all. Right now, we have a new deal that the Israeli administration put on the table that Biden is vouching her this deal. And I'm really hopeful that Hamas will show the world that he cares about his own citizens and will say yes to this deal. Because if they say no, I'm really hopeful that everyone can see the true face of terror.
So the guest there, sort of as Briahna was pointing out, there are lots of families of hostage victims who have sort of said, we really want Netanyahu to agree to a ceasefire. They're protesting him. Whereas this guest that she was speaking to on the Hill was essentially saying, no, this is all Hamas's fault. We just need all of your support to sort of defeat these terrorists. Now, of course, it's not a reason to be rude to someone whose sister is being held hostage, but I do think that lots of untruths are actually being said by this guest. I'm including there, so she's saying it's Hamas standing in the way of a ceasefire. That ignores, of course, that it's Israel who are pushing back against the ceasefire plan outlined by Joe Biden. Hamas have said so long as the ceasefire is permanent, they're willing to sign it. So that suggestion from the guest, oh, it's all Hamas's fault. Israel is looking for peace. Why won't everyone just rally around and put even more pressure on the terrorists? The guest speaking to Briahna also relied on some pretty discredited sources.
I don't know if you know Zaka organization, but they have the worst pictures of what Hamas has done to the women during the October 7th attack.
Yeah,
And
unfortunately, we are very familiar with Zaka, but regrettably, the reporting has been roundly discredited by both Israeli and American media sources. So I really would like to bring this back to your sister specifically. And I want to ask you about what you make of new reports.
Because I saw the pictures with my own eyes. And when you will have a sister in a terror organization's hand, you will know the feeling of terrifying every minute of every day. Can't sleep at night, can't even drink a sip of water because I know that my sister is drinking salt water from the sea, that she's not getting food and the terrorist is eating in front of her face.
Yeah, Yarden, I really hope your sister does get water and food, and I hope that I'm sure you're aware of the ample reporting of Israel blocking aid, food and water to Gaza in a way that is hurting both the people of Gaza and the hostages, right?
Most of the trucks are getting inside Gaza. I don't know if you saw, but Hamas is blocking them from them civilians. They're not giving their own civilians the humanitarian aid that everyone is so eager to give them.
So you can see why Briahna Joy Gray is getting frustrated right there. She's got a guest who's just saying Israeli talking point after Israeli talking point after Israeli talking point. We know what they've done because we've heard from Zaka. Now, as you'll have seen from sort of previous shows we've done, so much of what Zaka said, this voluntary first responder group, has been completely discredited. There was a really good Al Jazeera documentary, and we interviewed the producer. He spoke to or interviewed this guy from Zaka saying lots of the things that you've sort of said happened. You know, I think they'd sort of said that there was a fetus ripped out of a pregnant woman's stomach. He said that this can't be true because it doesn't sort of line up with the other evidence we've got. And he says, no, I've got a picture of it. It shows, the host a picture and says that picture doesn't show that at all. Right? So it does seem like Zaka are not in any way people who should be trusted, but it's just repeated there. And then says, oh no, Israel are really committed to giving all the people of Palestine food. It's just Hamas blocking it. So, I can see why as a host you'd be getting very frustrated by listening to, all this bullshit essentially. And the interview. So, at the beginning we showed you that small clip which went viral and everyone's saying, this is completely outrageous. How can she be so disrespectful as to roll her eyes to sort of a family member of a victim of hostage taking, right? And when you look at that 14-second clip, some people will think, oh, that did seem a little bit disrespectful to someone in a difficult sort of position. But let's show you that in context. So this is how the interview ended with, what I think can only be called a bit of a rant.
If the world won't help us, we will see 9/11 the second time in the US as well. Because we can already see in the United States, in Michigan, rallies that's calling death to America, not condemning terror organizations in Israel or any other place. In fact, is reflecting to your country as well.
I'm just going to push
So
back
it's
against
not-
the implication that in Michigan, which has the largest Muslim and Arab population in America, that there is any threat of terrorism from our own people. And I would like to clarify also that one of the rationale that was presented for 9/11 was discussed with America's support of Israel's continued occupation of Palestine. So that's neither here nor there. I really do hope that Netanyahu agrees and Israel agrees to the ceasefire deal that could bring all the hostages, including your sister, home. And I'm sure many people watching are praying for her safety.
Thank you, me too. And I really hope that you specifically will believe women when they say that they got hurt.
All right, thanks for joining.
That
Stick around, more Rising coming up next.
So that 11-second clip that people watch, which actually makes it look like, Briahna Joy Gray ended the interview early, which she absolutely did not. And you saw the eye roll. It had come after this rant where, after spouting a load of untruths, this person says, if we don't defeat Hamas now, you're going to have another 9/11 in America, and everyone in, this heavily Muslimly, this state with a large Muslim population is protesting to call for Hamas to win and the hostages to be, loads and loads of nonsense. So you can see why Briahna Joy had that reaction. I don't think the 14-second clip being shared by all of these Israeli talking heads is in any way representative.
I think the main thing that came across from me, from the full clip that you see, is just this. I'm just so tired, again, of this narrative that we get, where it's just, this conflict is just between the West and the East. If you don't support what Israel is doing in Gaza, etc., then eventually all of the people that we believe to be the bulwark against, for example, as the America's outpost in the Middle East, they're all going to come for you. There'll be another 9/11. These are people who you cannot mix with Western society. None of these things are true. I mean, this is the same things that Isaac Herzog was saying in interviews with people like Laura Kuenssberg. And it's clear, again, this is part of the kind of Hasbara narrative that you get. And it's frustrating because I do feel for this woman. Obviously, we all feel for all of the hostages, all the families of the hostages. And when it comes to things like, for example, like the rape issue with regards to the Israel-Hamas war, in that whilst obviously we've all seen how it's been discredited, the idea of systemic rape being used on October the 7th, part of the ICC chief prosecutor's letter wanting to have a warrant for the arrest of people like Sinwar and Daif from Hamas clearly shows that the UN has reasons to believe that there is good evidence that rapes were committed against hostages in captivity specifically. Again, we don't know which particular group that was by or whether it's been used systemically or not. But that's something that that's clearly going to be an issue. I can understand why she is upset given the position that she's in and why this emotive clip can go viral. But just as always, with all of the kind of pro-Israel propaganda, context gets removed. The full understanding of any kind of issue gets presented only in an emotive manner rather than a factual manner. And that removal of context is part of the ways in which this narrative continually gets pushed. And at the end of the day, it's led to people like Briahna Joy Gray losing her job over one eye roll. Obviously, that shouldn't be things that should be happening. But again, the right keeps talking about how they cancel culture, yet here they are engaging in it themselves.
Yeah, I mean, this is also, the costs are so much high. If you make a tiny mistake, rolling your eyes, right? If you're pro-Palestine, then you get sacked, right? We showed you at the beginning of that clip that there was the guy saying, Briahna, what are you talking about? Blah, blah, blah. Well, he was just saying lie after lie after lie after lie after lie. So if you're on the pro-Israeli side, you can make so many mistakes. You can tell so many untruths, and your job is never going to be under threat. If you're on the pro-Palestine side, even a facial expression can get you fired, right? Which essentially seems to be what happened here. You've got people who are broadcasting an hour every day. Someone's looking at every sort of minute of what you're doing to find a facial expression they don't like. And if you make a wrong face expression, then you're fired, right? The stakes are just so much higher if you have the temerity to be critical of Israel than they are if you're like a cheerleader for the American and the Israeli position. I think that's what's totally unjust and fair here.